Today's top stories. A development in the sea route. President Duterte seeks the early conclusion of the Code of Conduct in the West Philippine Sea. The military plans to recommend the extension of martial law in Mindanao. The government's competition watchdog calls for the establishment of additional cell towers for use of major telcos. And Christmas comes early in several provinces as LGUs launch their holiday gimmicks.
Good day, I'm Pia Rosas Morato. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. ASEAN leaders have taken up the West Philippine Sea issue in the 33rd ASEAN Summit in Singapore. President Rodrigo Duterte assures the Philippines will do its part in establishing a code of conduct in the contested territory. More on this from Rom Dulfo.
President Rodrigo Duterte has assured the Philippines' commitment to work with all concerned parties to achieve the early conclusion of an effective code of conduct in the West Philippine Sea. President Duterte committed before his fellow leaders during the 33rd ASEAN Summit working dinner on Tuesday night. He said the Philippines will do its part to realize a more peaceful, stable, and secure region. He also reaffirmed the country's commitment to the full and effective implementation of the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in South China Sea. The President emphasized the need to intensify cooperation amid many threats in the region, such as terrorism, violent extremism, radicalization, piracy and armed robbery at sea, and trafficking of persons and illicit drugs. The President also encouraged ASEAN member states to remain undeterred and focused in performing their crucial task of sustaining innovative and inclusive growth. He also urged fellow leaders to continue investing in the region and its people, particularly in micro, small, and medium enterprises. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Rom Dulfo.
President Rodrigo Duterte approved the temporary suspension of the 2 peso increase in the oil excise tax next year. Finance officials recommend the suspension of the excise tax hike after inflation hit 6.7% in September. Fuel excise taxes increased by 2 pesos and 50 centavos per liter this year due to the train law. The levy is scheduled to rise by 2 pesos in 2019 and 150 per liter in 2020 for a total 6 peso excise tax hike for 3 years. The Philippine National Police says it was taken out of context regarding the expected arrest of former First Lady Imelda Marcos. PNP spokesperson Benigno Durana refutes claims by critics that they will not arrest Marcos based on age and health. Durana says Albayalde is referring to the PNP's treatment once they serve her warrant arrest. He says Marcos is not a flight risk due to her physical condition. The Department of Education comes to the aid of teachers affected by the K-12 program. And toll officials plan to ban buses on Skyway. More on these and other news around the metro from Benj Bondoc.
The Department of Education says it has absorbed professors teaching Filipino and other college subjects in line with the implementation of the K-12 program. This as DepEd allayed fears of unemployment following the Supreme Court's decision that Filipino and Panitikan or literature are no longer mandatory subjects in colleges and universities. DepEd clarifies that Filipino subject has not been removed, but rather transferred to grades 11 and 12. The Toll Regulatory Board is eyeing to impose a ban on buses along elevated parts of the Skyway. This is to prevent incidents of overspeeding bus drivers, which might result in accidents on the major thoroughfare. The agency is currently conducting simulations on the effect of the proposed bus ban. The Commission on Elections will soon release the names of all party list organizations and their nominees before the 2019 national and local elections. Poll watchdog Contadaya urges the public not to waste this opportunity from the COMELEC in scrutinizing the would-be politicians. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Benj Bondo.
Still to come, the Philippine Competition Commission calls for the establishment of additional cell towers for use by major telcos. These and more when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Ito ang Duterte on Duty. Ulat sa ginagawa ng Presidente.
November 1, Huwebes. Kasama si Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte sa aerial inspection sa Isabela at Mountain Province na nasalanta ng bagyong Rosita. Sinundan ito ng isang joint situation briefing. Sinuri ang naging pinsala.
I am satisfied with the response of government. Everybody is here, and I think that everyone is doing his duty. I'd like to thank you for that.
Davao City. Inalala ng Pangulo ang mga yumaong mahal sa buhay at dinalaw ang puntod ng kanyang ama't ina na sina Governor Vicente at Soledad Duterte. November 5, Lunes, Parañaque City. Pinasinayaan ni Pangulong Duterte ang Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange, ang pinakaunang land port sa Pilipinas.
This will help ease traffic by limiting provincial buses flying Metro Manila roads, specifically along Rojas Boulevard and the EDSA Taft area. It will also serve as a transfer point between the provincial buses from Cavite, Western Batangas, and other in-city modes of transportation.
November 6, Martes, Malacanang. Idinaos ang 31st Cabinet Meeting at tinalakay ang mga mahalagang issue sa bansa. November 7, Miyerkules, Pasay City. Itinaas ng Chief Executive ang rango nila Major General Macairog Alberto at Major General Ronnie Evangelista na parehong naging Lieutenant General. Umangat naman bilang Major General si Brigadier General Erwin Bernard Neri. Pasig City. Siniguro ng Pangulo sa investors na ang Pilipinas ay isang business-friendly country nang dumalo siya sa GAC Motor Philippines brand launch.
Let me assure you that this government is doing its best to ensure a level playing field for investors. We will continue to provide both foreign and local investors like the GAC Motor and Ligado Motors with assistance they need so that their venture may prosper and flourish.
Ako po si Secretary Martin Andanar at ito ang Duterte on Duty. Abangan sa susunod na linggo ang mga gagawin ng Pangulo.
The Presidential Communications Operations Office.
The military is looking into the possibility of extending military control following the positive response by stakeholders in the region. The Armed Forces of the Philippines is considering recommending an extension of martial law in Mindanao following the positive response from stakeholders in Mindanao. AFP Chief of Staff Carlito Galvez says there was a need to extend martial law to sustain its gains and to completely defeat terrorism, including the New People's Army. He cites the positive impact of the martial law on Mindanao's economy. In Davao region alone, gross domestic product grew by 10.9% last year, making the region the second fastest growth in the country. President Rodrigo Duterte earlier said the extension of martial law in Mindanao would depend on the recommendation of the AFP. With the entry of a third major telecom player in the country, the government's competition watchdog calls for the establishment of more communication infrastructure such as cell towers. Here's a report.
The Philippine Competition Commission, or PCC, is pushing for the creation of more independent tower companies that will build cell towers and other communications infrastructures that may be shared by all telcos. According to the PCC, the establishment of shared towers will improve the delivery of communication services by mobile network providers. This would level the playing field for smaller players and new entrants that do not have the capital for building a broad network of towers to effectively compete. The PCC meanwhile expressed concern on the proposed guidelines of the Common Tower Policy, which limits to only 2 companies to build and share their towers for telco use. It says government must implement measures that will speed up the issuance of permits for the construction of communication facilities. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Miguel Hill.
The Commission on Elections received separate petitions seeking to disqualify former Senator Alan Peter Cayetano and his wife, Taguig City Mayor Lani Cayetana, from the 2019 elections. Petitioner and Taguig resident Leonidas Buak Jr. said the couple must be disqualified from running in the forthcoming polls, adding that they cannot claim living in separate residences, which is not in accordance with the family code. The former Foreign Affairs Secretary claims he is a resident of Barangay Bagumbayan in the 1st District of Taguig, while Lani claims she lives in Barangay Fort Bonifacio in the 2nd District. Both are running as representatives in Taguig's 1st and 2nd District. Regional Party Hugpong ng Pagbabago clarifies it is not endorsing local candidates unless explicitly stated. This, as certain local bets claim to have the party's endorsement through co-founder Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio. Zamboanga City Representative Celso Lobregat earlier said he received Mayor Sara's endorsement in a luncheon meeting. Political officer Jeffrey Tupas says Lobregat may have made too much of the photo opportunity with the mayor. He adds that he can't recall Mayor Sara openly endorsing Lobregat. Signs of normalcy continue to show up in Marawi City 1 year after the siege, as children affected by the crippling conflict return to school, get back to their usual hobbies, and play with friends. More on this from Rom Dulfo.
Abdul Rafi and his friends play in this open space outside a masjid. More laughter, smiles, and chit-chats as life goes on for these Marawi children.
Ganyan, magpapalipad ng kahit.
More child-friendly spaces are being put up here in this housing project. This amidst a backdrop of a city recovering a year after a crippling conflict. In front of this masjid, elders teach young Maranaos of their religion. After a long day of schoolwork, they would go here to breathe, play, and learn. In the Mindanao State University Training Center, more signs of normalcy.
Mga 1 week po kami nawala dito, nag-iligang kami, pero bumalik din po kami sa emission kasi safe naman po dun, sir. Hanggang saan magiging okay na. Back to normal naman, sir. Parang yung kagaya lang ng dati.
Parang okay lang. Parang nare-renovate na din nila. Tapos, yung karsada na aayos na din nila.
The government continues to pour in livelihood assistance to displaced residents here. The Education Department, meanwhile, seeks to sustain the education of young Maranaos, many of whom live in this wide housing project.
Okay naman ang pag-aral nila dahil yung mga anak ko nga, dito sila lumipat sa school ng pilot. Mayroon din silang ibinibigay na mga damit, na mga uniforme at saka bigas kung minsan ang ibinibigay sa kanila.
The groundbreaking ceremony for Marawi's rebuilding was done end of October, signaling the start of recovery efforts. A year after Marawi was crippled by war, rehab efforts continue. Security measures remain tight, and Maranaos get a glimpse of light. And like the sky, their hopes soar to the sky. Rom Dulfo, Philippine News Agency.
Government troops clash with rebels in Iloilo, and flower vendors in Bacolod City get new stalls from the local government. More on these stories from the provinces from Benj Bondok.
A rebel was killed while 9 other suspected supporters of the New People's Army were captured after a clash with troops of the Army 61st Infantry Battalion in Iloilo. The rebel was killed at Sitio Butuan, Barangay Igkabugao in Igbaras. The Army urges the public to continue supporting them and report activities of the rebels. In Bacolod City, members of the Flower Vendors Association transferred to new flower stalls behind the base center. This is to give way to further beautification. The new stalls have been provided to the flower vendors for free. In Baguio City, Anti-Smoking Task Force caught over 2,600 violators from January to October. The city was able to collect 1.6 million pesos in fines during the period. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Benj Bondo.
Up next, the Philippine Embassy is reminding Pinoys in Israel to be careful amid the escalating clashes between Israel and Palestine. And several provinces launched their holiday gimmicks. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Kahit saan ikaw ang hanap, namumulila sa iyong yakap. Tatagpong muli ang siyang pinaghahandaan. Sa pagdating ng sandaling iyon, walang hanggang kasiyahan, aking pasalubong. Buong mundo man ang naikot, gaano mang tagal nilibot, ang iyong sayang siyang dala, hindi malilimot. Sa kasangiting walang katulad, sa kasamangkay nagliliwanag, gagawin ng makakaya, ang saya magpasaya. Ang saya magpasaya sa duty free.
The Department of Foreign Affairs warns more than 29,000 Filipinos in Israel to be careful as hostilities with Palestine escalate. The Philippine Embassy in Tel Aviv has alerted Filipinos to avoid public places, particularly those near Gaza, the West Bank, and the Golan Heights. Israel launched airstrikes on Monday after more than 400 projectiles were fired into the country from Gaza. Palestinian militant groups had already accepted an Egyptian-brokered ceasefire to end exchange of fire with Israel. The latest violence reportedly erupted when an Israeli Special Forces operation was exposed several miles into the Strip. Affected Filipinos may call the Philippine Embassy in Israel for assistance. In our foreign news, the United States wants Beijing to withdraw its missiles from the Spratly Islands in the South China Sea. U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton says Washington objects to Beijing's unilateral military steps in the South China Sea. The statement comes after U.S.-China bilateral talks, where Chinese officials asked Washington to stop sending vessels and military aircraft close to Chinese islands and reefs. Both sides agreed to remain committed to non-confrontation and support the peaceful resolution of any disputes in the contested region. U.S. Secretary of Defense James Mattis earlier notes that despite Chinese President Xi Jinping's promise not to militarize the Spratly Islands, Beijing had moved weapons there. The Wrestling Association of the Philippines hauled a whopping 33 gold medals in the Southeast Asian Wrestling and Grappling Championship. The Go for Gold-backed team won 24 of the golds from non-traditional styles, such as the newly introduced gi and no-gi grappling, pancration, and beach wrestling. Team Philippines achieved the feat against the finest grapplers from Singapore, Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Australia. Veteran grapplers Margarito Angana and Michael Vijay Kater ruled the 60 and 55 kilogram weight classes in Greco-Roman and freestyle together with Noel Norada. Also winning gold medals were Luke Cruz in the 125 kilogram category in men's freestyle, and women freestyle wrestlers Minalyn Foy Os and Noemi Tener in the 57 and 68 kilogram categories. Christmas comes early to several provinces as the local governments and private sector launch holiday attractions, which are sure to set the mood for people to feel the holiday spirit. More on this from Maricor Zapata.
Baguio City is not the only place that's in an early holiday mood with its Christmas village. Other provinces are also gearing up to welcome the Yuletide season. In Davao City, the city government will turn the City Hall into a winter wonderland come November 23 as the month-long Pasko Fiesta celebration kicks off. A food fiesta will also be offered to the Baweños in Santa Ana Wharf. The city is also bringing back the Torotot Party on December 31 to usher in the new year. Establishments can compete in the Christmas lights competition using festive and dazzling lights, thematic decorations, and holiday trees. In Nueva Ecija, rice-shaped lanterns light up Maharlika Highway and the social circle in San Jose City. This is to highlight rice farming as the city's lifeblood. As the city government turned on the Christmas lights, Bishop Roberto Malyari of the Diocese of San Jose urged the faithful to follow the light that led the three kings to Jesus in Bethlehem. San Jose City is known as the Christmas capital of Nueva Ecija, the so-called rice granary of the Philippines. In Cagayan de Oro, the annual Festival of Lights was launched on November 9 at Centrio Mall. This year, Centrio Mall teams up with the Walt Disney Company here in the Philippines with the theme Reimage the Magic, a Festival of Lights. The music will be provided by Disney from its playlist of popular songs arranged by seasoned composer Ronnie Fortich. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Maricor Zapata.
Let's now check out the weather forecast for Metro Manila and the rest of the country. Let's take another look at today's top stories.
A development in the sea route. President Duterte seeks the early conclusion of the Code of Conduct in the West Philippine Sea. The military plans to recommend the extension of martial law in Mindanao. The government's competition watchdog calls for the establishment of additional cell towers for use of major telcos. And Christmas comes early in several provinces as LGUs launch their holiday gimmicks.
Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and how it serves the Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. And it's 41 more days to go before Christmas. And that's your daily dose of the latest news and information that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I'm Pia Roses Morato. Good day.